Oh, that took 10 minutes. All right. Good morning, everybody. It is session 4, Ignite, and this is Define Your Value. We had an instructor who was due to be here who was homesick, so I'm jumping in. So I enjoy you guys leaping in, unmuting when you got a question. Certainly keep me abreast if you hear me. I'll do my best, and I usually am pretty cognizant of it. But if you hear me use an acronym, a Kellerism that you have no idea what I'm talking about, also stop me, and we'll get that done. Awesome. So let's roll. So session 4, define your value. One of the first things that we need to discuss is are you doing the things? Are you making sure that you're having the conversations? And if you are having conversations, would you like to share the conversations you've had since we started? And if this is your first session, I completely understand too. The rule with Ignite is that we're focused on at least doing, it's called the 10-4, so that we're adding 10 people to our database. And we're having 10 conversations with their permission, adding them to the database, sending out 10 handwritten notes, thanking them for their time, and then ultimately chiming in on social media with at least 10 likes or comments, or maybe even something you share some content as well. So does anybody want to share what's happening? And there's a crew in the training room. The crew in the training room wants to come in here, they can come in here. I've got seats. Does anybody want to unmute? If you need the workbook for Ignite, all of it is right here. You can scan that with your phone. Hold on to that QR code, and that way you'll have the workbook for the entire session. If you miss any sessions, we have all of the sessions on YouTube. You can simply go to the hub. If you're familiar with the KWCLM hub, you can go there, and you can go to that center tile that says learning videos. In the center of all those tiles, there's learning videos, and you click into that. That will take you to YouTube. That will allow you to watch all 20 sessions, which are sitting on the YouTubes. Questions around that? Perfect. You guys in the training room are seeing the tile. Yes, you're seeing the screen. Give me a wave. You can see the screen. I love that. Thank you, kids. Appreciate it. All right. So what we want to cover today, what we want to cruise through today, is the value proposition. After that, it's what matters to buyers and sellers, defining your value proposition, and then we're going to go through and recap and get some ahas. And then talk about the daily success system, which we just talked about, which is the 10-4 for Ignite. The 10-4 being having 10 conversations, gaining their permission to add them to your database, adding 10 people to your database, sending out 10 handwritten notes, and then in social media, going in and either liking or hearting or commenting on 10 things, and God willing, maybe even posting something. And I know that Samantha Catterall is going to be teaching the social media segment. I'll give you my 2 cents, as invalid as it may be, because I'm an old man, but bear with me on this. I think it's fascinating when people post stuff on social media and then they don't go back and re-engage with it. So when you're considering your presence online, please don't tell me that you have an online presence and then fail to be present online. Does that make sense? It's tantamount to walking down the hallway and I pass Ashley Eason in the hallway, and she says, I say, "What's up?" And she's like, "Nothing much. How are you?" And I just keep walking. If you go on social media and you're like, "Let me ask a question," and get people talking, and then a whole bunch of people start talking, and then you ignore it and you never go back to it, why would they ever engage with you again? So please, if you're going to use it as a resource to engage with your people, if you're going to claim you have an online presence, Let's make sure we are also additionally present online. Super important. There's my 4.5 cents about social media because I feel like sometimes we abuse it. Not to mention, there's a whole rule around it too. And you'll hear me complain about this forever. When we talk about Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, 20% of our efforts equals 80% of our activities or our results, I should say. You flip that on its head when you go to social media. Even on your business page, on social media, on your business page, you should have 80% of it should be about the town in which you serve, the people that you're serving. It should not be like you got to make sure that only 20% of it is business, if that makes sense. Think about when you see somebody who you know is, you've got a friend who just started, and there's so many different companies, I've lost track, but just, is it Leah Sophia? Is that the one with the jewelry? Am I making that up? Right? Your friend just started selling that, or your friend just started selling soap for some company, and you start to see them coming down your news feed. You know what's coming. And that's a huge turnoff. So if we can get you to the point, and as your coach, I want nothing less than this for you. I want real estate to turn into the background music. I need you to be somebody who, when they see you coming down the sidewalk, down their news feed, or your name shows up in their phone as it's ringing, that they're excited to engage. Not like, oh crap, she's calling again. She's looking for a lead. She's looking for somebody to buy, sell, or invest. I mean, if they remember that, that's magical. But if that's how they feel about your presence, that's not great. Real estate should be the background music. They're going to buy or sell or invest. Maybe, the rule has always been 5 to 7 years. It's probably closer to 7 years now. So we have to be a human in the gap when we show up. So they're not like, oh God, here she comes. We don't want to be that person. And we'll help you not be that person. So your value proposition, does anybody think they have a value proposition? And you can throw it in the chat if you think you know what your value proposition is now. Does anybody think they have a value proposition? There's some veterans on the Zoom right now, so there should be answers. Sally Stu, Carol Goodwin, I'm picking on you. Carol Goodwin, can you type out without it becoming Toll Story? Can you type out your value proposition? I know you're not feeling well. Carol Goodwin, ladies and gentlemen, was the beautiful soul that was supposed to be teaching today, but she's home fighting off illness. So she's apparently upright and typing them, which is a good sign. Glad you're feeling better. Sally Stu, can you come off mute and tell me what your value proposition is while Carol Goodwin types or doesn't type? Because I'm not sure what she's doing.
I can honestly say I'm trying to look it up really fast because I can't say it word for word.
Okay. So I appreciate that. And I think it's important we have that. What my biggest challenge is, and this happens, and you'll hear this all the time, and there's people that have magnificent ones. Don't get me wrong. I remember my freshman year thinking, how do you, because you don't want it to be about you. The last thing you want it to be about is you. And that's my personal feeling.
Mine isn't about me. Mine is about empowering those who doubt their ability to be homeowners to become homeowners.
Amen. Perfect. Yeah, I love that. In the grand scheme of things, if somebody says, hey, Sally, why should we work with you? And you're like, wow, and you start this bullet point list of why you're the greatest. All right, so Goodwin just threw one in. When you hire me as your buyer's agent, you aren't just getting me, you're getting my entire team who will work tirelessly, blah, 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 in the middle of a class to find exactly what you're looking for. Sorry, somebody just knocked at my door. And using an extended team of lenders, like the whole value proposition is she speaks right to the leverage and the value of you're getting all of this. The benefit is because what they're asking, why should we hire you? They're really saying, what's in it for me, right? Everybody's favorite radio station, WIFM. Like, what's in it for me? And she goes, right, the one thing I'd ask you to change, Carol, and I'm saying this out of experience, I would pull buyer's agent out of there. Change buyer's agent to realtor, please.
Noted. Thank you.
Amen, sister. And here's why. I've shared with all of you, and we have a couple of new faces, I believe, in the training room. And I apologize. I'm not in the training room because at 10:59, I turn into a pumpkin and I have to go right into another meeting. So I'm doing it from my desk. Also, there's only 2 of you. If you want to come in here, you can come into my office and I can throw this up on the screen if you want to, too. So, like, if you want to sit in there, you're good. But if you guys want to come down the hallway and join me in my office, you can also do that. Because I feel sort of weird that we're in 38 feet apart from each other. But I think some people in the company would argue it might be cool to be 38 feet away from me. So whatever you want to do. And this is all being recorded for later for the Smithsonian. Anyway, so I think the concern I have when I see buyer's agent, when I was working with Jen Vashon, she was lead list, I was lead buyer. And we were working as Nate was stepping out of the business and we were taking over his business. And one of my dear friends, and I just saw it this weekend, if you're ever driving in New England and you're looking at an 18-wheeler or a tractor trailer and you see mud flaps that say JP Rivard Trailer Sales, I want you to remember this. My dear friend Matt Rivard sold his house in Nashua and they moved to Londonderry. Total volume was like 1.2, 1.3 million. My wife sees that Matt Rivard and his wife, Melissa, had moved. She's like, oh, the Rivards moved. And I was like, huh. And we're talking best friend from my neighborhood that I grew up in. Like one of the guys. There's a bunch of guys in my neighborhood. Super close friend. And we're still close. So Janina jumps on FaceSpace and she's like, hey, Melissa, congratulations. Now, you know, Melissa's sitting there probably yelling to Maddie in their new house saying, hey, Janina Lindsey's thanking or congratulating us on the house. This is super awkward because we didn't work with Tim. And Melissa fires right back. We didn't want to bother Tim. Oh, God. We didn't want to bother Tim because we didn't think he'd come all the way over here. Now, we live in Stratford. This office is in Portsmouth. We're sitting in Portsmouth. My friend Maddie sold Nashua to move to Londonderry. And he and I grew up in Chelmsford. Nashua is like northwest Massachusetts, right? Like it's really close. So the first thing was we didn't think he'd want to come all the way over here. We have to remind the people in our life that we're licensed in the entire state. As long as you're comfortable, because there's another side of that too. You don't necessarily need to sell, or it doesn't benefit everybody to sell in the entire state. Then, because I would pound my chest as I was the lead buyer specialist, they didn't think that I could sell their home, which was the first step for them. So not to spend too much time on Carol Goodwin, but the reason I'm asking you to change it to realtor is they don't need to know your specificity within the industry until they get into business with you. Just say realtor. To me, it's more all-encompassing and you won't miss deals. And my friendly reminder to all of you that are listening, the next time you see a JP Rivard Trailer Sales mud flap on the back of an 18-wheeler, remember that story. And you'll see them all the time because Maddie does a ton of business in New England. And I just want it to be a cautionary tale for you to stop telling people that you only do this piece of the business. You're part of a greater team at Keller Williams that does all of the things. Well, all you want to do is set the appointment, discover what they're looking for. Then you piece together the people that you need to do the next right thing for them. And don't overthink it. Perfect. All right. The other thing, because I know that Sally Stu had mentioned, you know, she's got it, but she doesn't necessarily, it doesn't roll off the lips. And I appreciate that, Sally. What I came to discover when I was worried about, hey, what should I say for my value proposition? I finally got away from it because I think this is brilliant and nobody's expecting to hear this from you. So when somebody says, Tim, Ashley, Ryan, Amanda, why should we use you? I would stop right there and be like, that's a great question, Mr. Lindsey. Do you have some time so we can so we can talk and I can ask you some questions so we can make sure that we're a fit for each other? Nobody's doing that. Everybody's racing right to why they're the greatest person on the planet and why you should sign with me, as opposed to, you know, I'm not sure we should work together. If you have some time, I'd love to ask you some questions to make sure we truly are a fit. That pattern, that break in pattern that they're so used to not getting will give them pause and have them reconsider and be like, huh, this is different. And one thing that we know from psychology and from sales and the union of both is the brain loves novelty. So the first time they hear something different from a salesperson, and I know you're all sitting there saying, Timmy, we're not salespeople, we're real estate agents. Look at your license. It says salesperson. And if you can't get over that, I need you to climb under it, light it on fire, run around it like we are salespeople. Doesn't mean we need to be salesy. The definition of what we do as salespeople is we help people make decisions. And we do that by asking questions and helping them understand their opportunities and the directions and the products that they can use. Like the root of the word decision, decidere, it's Latin, it is to cut off. Right? Incision, decision, to cut off all other options. So they figure out exactly what's appropriate for them. So when we're talking about our value proposition, I didn't give you that like, hey, we're done now. Have a great morning, everybody. We're wrapping up at 9:18. I'm just telling you what I decided worked for me in the end. Rather than trying to come up with the 15, 30-second elevator speech of why they would choose Tim Lindsey in a moment's notice. And I assure you, we've always called it an elevator speech. I assure you, some quippy 29-second word salad is not going to gain business with somebody you've never met. We know time on task is going to be wildly important, especially with the unmets. Never mind the people that we know and love and trust. And I found over time that when I broke the thought pattern with the consumer, why should we work with you, Tim? It made the most sense for me to say, I'm not sure we should work together. If we have some time, if I could ask you some questions to make sure we are a fit, would that be okay? And what did I just do? I put them right back in the driver's seat, which is where they should be for the entire transaction. And Carol Goodwin's, if you read hers in the chat, perfect. I would just change buyer's agent to realtor because she's talking about the value her team brings. I've said time and time again, if you are a spouse sales team, that is a killer app, I think. Because when people are sitting down with a guy, no judgment, but here it comes. Hold on tight. People are sitting down with a guy, they're like, he might be a jackass. As soon as they're sitting down with at least one woman on the planet that decided that he's okay, they're like, no, I sort of trust him now. I definitely trust her. And I also know I'm getting the power of both. So that's helpful. What Carol did in the absence of the rest of her team standing behind her, like, the Avengers, is she just reminded them, I have all these resources. Now you're like, well, okay, now Timmy, but I can't do that because it's just me. I get that. You're still allowed to use the royal we. Because how many teammates do you have? I'll help you. 576 right now. Are we designated agents? Yes. Are people allowed to look inside each other's sock drawer? No. They're not going to have the motivations and all the disclosure that your client gave you, but you can tap any one of us on the shoulder to help you, the entire staff here, not to mention all the other agents. Because I'll tell you right now, if you called anybody on the staff and said, hey, it's Saturday at noon, I got a chance to go to a kitchen table at 6 o'clock in this town, I'm scared to death, I don't know what I'm doing. We're going to team you up with a great agent that knows that town. So you're going to go to that kitchen table with that town's Tom Brady. The discussion of how that's going to look financially will be between you and that agent. That should make you willing to pick up the phone and talk to the people that you know and love and trust to find out who they know that you can serve. Because we're never going to leave you out in the weeds. So your value proposition, unique, memorable, and persuasive statement that expresses a true value of working with you, addresses the specific and special needs of the buyer and the sellers in your market. Number 3, it states what you will do for your client to earn your commission, your fees, and holds you accountable to high standards, which we should always be doing. When it gets right down to it, people are like, oh, my clients only want to work with me. I love you. Your ego is adorable. They don't want to work with you. They want to work with the standard that you've set. If you come in my office, I've got all those little Funko Pops. One of them I have is Colonel Sanders, God rest his soul. The reason I have Colonel Sanders is I say this all the time. The Colonel is dead. The chicken tastes the same because he found people to continue to use the 11 herbs and spices consistently. That's a standard. That's why people will want to work with you again. If you go to your favorite chain restaurant in San Diego or Philadelphia, and you order your favorite chopped salad, God willing that they're following the standards of that chain restaurant, it will taste the same. There's a consistency. There's a reason you trust that brand. That's how you do that within your business. Because if your business has to have you in place over time, that's not leverage. You'll hear me say this a million times, especially this summer as people are taking breaks and going away, and you've asked somebody else to step in, or you have a team that should be doing all these things while you're away. If it breaks while you're on vacation, it was never working to begin with. That's about building a standard, then hiring to it, so you have the right people in place. Questions, comments, concerns before we roll? So many. Gary Keller in the MREA book. Does anybody not have the red book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent? Raise your paw if you don't have it. Everybody's got a copy. Cool. Okay. My recommendation, and I know we talk about a lot of books here, and they pop up all the time. Like somebody will be saying something like, it's a great book, or I heard this here, or I read this there. And I know it can become overwhelming. The starter kit, according to me, I think the starter kit is you should have the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the red book. That is the blueprint for the business. We teach business planning around that. Our next business planning clinic actually is going to be the end of March. It's the final Thursday in March. Will be in Meredith. We teach it every quarter now. So there's the red book. Then you've got Shift, which is the playbook for the activities. And then you've got the One Thing from Gary Keller. The premise of that book is, what is the one thing that I can do that such by doing? Everything else becomes easier or unnecessary. And then the final one, not from Gary, but from a Keller agent. His name is Michael Mayer, not John's dad. It's the 7 levels of communication. The mantra in this book that I adore is, today, somewhere in my city, someone is looking for help, and it is my job to find them. And that is the video game of what we do. Our job every day is to find somebody who's looking for our services, looking for our help. And it's not going to feel like that every day. You're going to put your head in the pillow quite often and be like, I didn't book a kitchen table today. I didn't get to a closing table today. We have to understand the compounding interest of having the right conversation with people and stacking trust and building momentum. You're going to have a conversation today. This person might not get to a kitchen table to sign a listing agreement, or a conference table to sign a buyer's agency agreement, or a closing table to close out a deal. This might not happen for 7 years. You have to ask yourself, do you plan to be in business in 7 years? And would you like their business in 7 years? And the answer is, carry the 4, yes. So having the conversation today. The mindset might be, well, if they're not moving for 7 years, that means they just moved him, so they've got an agent. No, they had an agent. They had an agent. As soon as that deal closes, even though they're in relationship with that agent, and I'm not saying go scour and find out all the deals that closed and start to chase these people, but we get in our own feels. If I just closed the Johnsons last month, I'm like, and in 7 years when they sell their house, they're going to call me. No, they won't. At my age, they'll think I died. At your age, they'll think, maybe she got out of the business. And whoever wanders into their path will get the business. So our job in the 7 years in between transactions is to stay in the path, stay in engagement, stay in relationship, be the human in the gap, which can be challenging because you're like, well, how do I do that? How do I remember? You use your CRM, your customer relationship management tool, which for most of us is Command. whatever you're using, right? I'll remind you as your coach, the CRM that is appropriate for you is the one that you're willing to open every day and use again and again and again. Number one pushback on CRMs. Well, Tim, it's weird putting people into command and then I have them in this process and I feel like I'm managing them. Nope. Command or follow-up boss or Brivity, whatever you're using is not there to manage your people. It's there to manage you and your relationships with those people. Run correctly, it should be seamless on their end. Well, doing all that, it feels like a pain in the ass. It is a pain in the ass until you get started doing it. Then it becomes something that you just do every day because you'll get a reminder every day. Sally Stu gets a text today. Ryan Perry gets an email. Ashley Eason gets a high five. Carol Goodwin gets a phone call. That seems like a lot of work. It is. And that's what they don't tell you on HGTV. Though, when you realize that you're doing that in the morning, because at your last job, you probably worked all day. In this industry, the jobby job part is before lunch. After lunch, we go on appointments. We're still working, but that's the part that was on TV. That was the sexy part that made you say, let's go do this. That's the fun part, engaging with the humans, going on appointments, getting contracts signed, negotiating contracts, getting them to the closing table, watching people advance in their lives and find success through real estate, and then getting paid commensurately for it. It's worth it. It's worth all the hard work in the morning. Embrace the fact that you only have to work. You only have to jobby job a half day every day. The rest of it, you get to go play in your genius zone. Because even for people like, no, I really love lead generation. I haven't met them yet. And if you see anybody with that t-shirt on at any major event, kick them in the face for me. Nobody loves lead generation. We understand it's wildly necessary. And we find portions of it that we click with. And I trust for most of us, if you had to list the top 10 things in real estate that you really enjoy doing, it would be in the bottom 5. It's very tab A sloppy. And until we start to do it consistently and sort of grow numb to it, if you're a fitness person, you just get up mindlessly and head to the gym. And before you know it, you're home making your smoothie, jumping out of the shower. You don't even think about the fact that you went to the gym because it's just something you do. When we can get you there with lead gen, then you'll be okay. But ask somebody on a fitness program that lives a fitness lifestyle. Do they love getting up at the crack of stupid and getting to Planet Fatness or wherever they go to do the right thing? The best part of going to the gym is walking out. Anybody will tell you that. The second best thing is the results over time. And lead gen's the same thing. Gary says in the Red Book, top agents can easily explain what services they will provide to anyone who hires them. And that's the other important word that Gary has in there. If you're still in the midst of another professional commitment and you're a dual career agent, awesome. Welcome. We love you. Can't wait. Next month, our Coffee with a Capper is going to be Nathan Fredette. He's going to talk about the fact that he's a permanent dual career agent. He is full-time at Liberty Mutual. Married with 3 little girls. Well, they're probably getting taller now, but anyway. And he crushes it with real estate. And he's known from day one he was going to do both and figure it out and get married and stay married and have 3 short people and all the things. So we'll have that conversation with him next month. It's a thing you can do. What I'm reminding you of is you've got friends who have professional commitments. They go in, they sat down. This might have been years ago. They agreed to a salary. They get an incremental bump or not once a year. That's probably fighting to hold, if not lag behind, the cost of living increase that we're experiencing on a regular basis. You, anytime you want, based on your activities and your tenacity and your consistency, can book an appointment at a kitchen table for your face to decide again and again and again what you're worth. and get paid as much as you want. We had a fascinating study in the last couple of weeks that I saw. We were going over numbers for recruiting for the region. And Matthew Urban, our regional operating principal, was showing since 2019 that our conversion has held, if not improved, over time between 2019 and yesterday. Yet our numbers hadn't held to that same standard. And this is across the board, whether you're a recruiter with an office looking to find more people or an agent with an office looking to find more listings. We're wildly talented and super good at what we do. The challenge is we just don't seem to do it enough. So back to, if you just get up and go to the gym every day, you're not going to see results in the mirror tomorrow. You will over time. And what do we also know? If you've ever done anything like this, it feels like it takes a long time to start to get into a groove when you're on a fitness journey. And we also know that weekend that you take off from the gym and ignore your nutrition goals, the atrophy of your muscles and the sluggishness of the calorie intake, it comes back immediately. Like, whoa. So the skills and efficiencies that we're building as we're doing the next right thing and having the conversations with people will diminish just as fast. And as your coach, I'm not saying that you should be doing it 7 days a week. When it comes to lead generation, I want you in real ardent lead generation Monday through Friday. If we're treating this like a business, that's when we should. You came here to control your calendar. You came here to control your bank account. So I trust Saturdays and Sundays based on the faith that you celebrate. There should be a day that you're taking for that and your family, and maybe a day over the weekend that you're spending half of it on showings and open houses. Or maybe you commit a full day on the weekend to real estate and you're taking a day during the week, which is the greatest cheat code in real estate. The humans aren't looking at it for us during the day, Monday through Friday. They might want something spring and summer after school to go look at a house, but you can sneak in a day off during the week, and it's okay. The best part of real estate is you're in charge. The worst part of real estate is that you're in charge. Managing our schedules to make sure that we're doing the next right thing consistently enough to get to where we want to go is a huge challenge. That's why we're all here to help you. My job as your coach is to get you exactly what you want when you want it. You might not want to hear the recipe I have for you for that, but I promise you that I won't steer you wrong. My job here is to make sure that you're getting what you're looking for. And we'll build a recipe that you'll author, and I will sous chef, if that makes any sense. It's always food with me. Fat kid, can't help it. Benefits of a value proposition. It helps your clients understand your value and your expertise. It protects your commission. Now more important than ever, we have to be able to explain to the civilians not only why we do what we do, how we do what we do, and the benefit for them. The benefit for them. Do they understand the power of you and your relationship with the brokerage? Over time, as you track as an agent here at KWCLM at 463, our market center number, if you're ever looking for that, market center 463. As you start to close deals consistently, start to track where they're coming from, who you're closing with. When you can start to point out the fact that, hey, last year, Mr. Lindsey, we helped 24 families. 18 of those families moved locally, and 16 of those families bought one of our listings, right? Or 16 of those families bought something from KWCLM, and then inside that bubble, 12 of them were ours, like your teams. That's why tracking is so important. We can't tell our story. We can't measure what we're doing to improve, and we can't tell our story without a history of success and the evidence to show, back to Carol, why it's important working with me. So again, that cheat code, even if you're a solo artist, is reminding them you're getting the power of KWCLM when you choose to work with me. Because if you're getting started, this is number one. If you're getting started, an easy way around this is people are just like, well, I'm just getting started. Should I tell people that I'm new? I'm not saying you shouldn't. More often than not, for most of us, and there's some outliers, but for most of us, the first transaction we ever do is probably with somebody that we know and love and trust. So they already know that you're new to this. And even if they have concerns, I simply would just remind them, well, I completely appreciate that, Mr. Lindsey. And the reason I chose KWCLM is because you point out all the positive attributes of why you chose this office. The education, the support, the teammates over 4 states. I mean, if we ever did the math, I would love to do the math. Can you imagine the amount of years of real estate experience in our office? I mean, there's a comma involved in that number. That's a huge opportunity. Because it's going to be really important moving forward that you can explain to them your value in the industry. And we've been talking about this for years, but it lives here now. With our conversations around sitting with our sellers and sitting with our buyers and protecting our income. And it's going to build strong and trusting relationships. Here's the thing, too. I need all of us to move away from a list of promises and move towards a list of truths. Don't have a bullet point on your, here's what we do, right? Everybody has their pre-listing packet or their buyer packet, and you send it to your sellers or your buyers, and it says that you do 8 million bullet points. If you don't do it, pull it out of there. The worst thing we can do is give them a list of promises and then not live up to it. One of the most endearing things about our fearless leader, Jen Vashon, JV will never, I promise you, you could close her hand in a car door and she won't do it. She will never make you a promise. She just does stuff. That was her big thing. She's like, I never make promises. And it's not that she doesn't want to endear herself to others. She doesn't want to live in that bubble of, I'm going to promise you this and promise you that and promise you this. And now, obviously, with her role now, it's probably one of the smartest things she's ever proclaimed. As somebody at this market center, and I know it happens internally at our company, it happens at our market center, it happens across the street at other brokerages. You'll hear teams do it all the time. Teams love to tell an agent that's looking for a team all the things they do. Market centers love to tell people all the things they do. The one thing that we're trying to do to the best of our ability here is live by a list of truths, not a list of promises. Because that number 3, building strong and trusting relationships, that will erode very quickly when somebody realizes they got here and it's not what they said it was. Great books. See, I told you we'd start listing books. You probably love them. Everybody loves them. Well, somebody probably doesn't like them. Matthew McConaughey, great book, Green Light. Book's called Green Light. And he discusses in there that people don't earn trust with him. They start at 100%. They only have a chance to erode it, which I thought was really powerful. And you might be thinking, well, I think I feel the same way. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt to start. Presuming that's how we're going in with people, everybody that can hear the sound of my voice right now is responsible for preserving the trust with the civilian consumers, with the fellow agent who's exploring coming to play here. We are all responsible to uphold that standard that Nathan Dickey created 20 years ago by standing next to our truths and doing what we say we're going to do, as opposed to just rattling off a list of promises and then letting people down. So as you put together your value proposition, and maybe I just gave you a cheat code because I love that. Why should we work with you? I'm not sure we should work together, but I'd love to sit and talk to make sure that we're a fit. Do you have some time today at 3 or tomorrow at 4? That's super simple because the greatest thing you can do is find out what they're looking for. You might have a list of bullet points for your listing presentation. You might have a list of bullet points for your buyer's agency. And when they tell you what's important to them, we want to highlight those. They don't care about the other 17 things now. I mean, they do, but not as much as the 3 things they said that they were most concerned about. There's an agent in the training room that does not have a copy of the MREA. Meals ready to eat. MRE. I'm just kidding. MREA. Millionaire real estate agent. If somebody does not have a copy, so here's what you can do. There's 2 cheat codes. You can go to Kaylee. Kaylee has copies, and what she'll do is she'll apply the cost to your agent bill. Or I would recommend, and there's no wrong, she might not have copies. She probably does. You can also just go to Amazon. Here's the thing. Gary's probably listening too. Hi, Gary. You can get all of the KW stuff, obviously, at kellerinc.com, kellerinc.com. The challenge there is the shipping's horrible. Hi, Gary. The shipping's horrible. So I would recommend that you definitely go to Amazon, because when you punch in Millionaire Real Estate Agent, it's going to populate all the other important books. And that way you can grab Shift and The One Thing and 7 Levels of Communication. You can either go to Kaylee or you can jump on Amazon. As you can imagine, we got out of the habit of handing them out because we would just be willy-nilly handing them out, and that is not responsible on the market center's behalf, because at some point somebody has to pay for it, and that starts to erode into profit share, which is something we want to defend on your behalf. So I might have a copy here, but I feel like somebody stole my last spare copy, so I apologize. I'm looking. I'm taking one last look. I do not have a spare copy of MREA. Although I think Sally Stew, here's a cheat code too. Sally Stew, did you put that copy on the shelf down the hall? If she's listening. She did. Yeah, Carol Goodwin, great point. And we're going to talk about this in a second. If I'm boring you, just come down the hallway and punch me in the face. I apologize. A lot of information. We're all over the place, but I'm just making sure we answer everybody's questions. Sally Stew put a copy of the MREA in the hallway. So if you guys leave the training room, go into the hallway where the men's and ladies' room are, walk all the way down to the back of the building, there's a little lending library, and there's an MREA there. And it was Sally Stew's. So if you go and grab it and never bring it back, she'll be okay with it. So there's a copy in the hallway. If somebody else is there, you're going to have to fight for it. Carol Goodwin, they're on Audible. Yes, I agree with her. They're all on Audible. Here's my cheat code for Audible. Couple things. I realized, and this might be because I'm old and senile, but I realized that if I'm only listening, it doesn't melt into my brain as well as if I am actively listening. And there's a difference. If you're an Audible person and it works for you, Godspeed. I had a MAPS coach years ago, the great Tammy Richards. She's up in Greater Portland. And she said to me, if you're listening to a section of the book, because she knew that I was driving to our other buildings, coach agents and all this stuff, she's like, Timmy, if you're listening to a section of a book and you're on a 30 or 45-minute ride, when you park, before you get out of your car, write down 3 questions that you would ask the class if you were teaching that portion of the book, which I thought was brilliant. Tammy Richard, by the way, to give her credit. Something I started doing in the last couple of years, because my wife and I usually at night will put on whatever's happening, Bruins, Celtics, whatever. It's going to be on the TV. And we're propped up in bed. She's sitting there doing whatever she's doing. I don't know what she's up to. I have no idea. Somebody find out for me. Janina's doing whatever she's doing. And I found that I would normally just sort of sit there and mindlessly watch and maybe scroll. And I found what I could do is I could turn down the noise on the TV, because I can watch the Bruins and the Celtics without the noise. And this is going to sound super infantile, but I do it. So here it comes. I would put on Audible, and I would also buy the book. So this is where it's a little clunky. Why would you buy the book and buy the Audible? This is why. I'm going to hold the book physically, and I'm going to read as the author is reading to me. And I found that level of 2x beating into my brain helped me retain much better. Because as I'm seeing the words, it's almost like you're in kindergarten and you're in that little circle in the library and they're reading the book to you. It's the same thing. but you have the book on your lap or in your hands. I like having the physical copy for a few reasons. I like to have the copy in my office. So when I'm done reading it, if somebody needs to steal it and hopefully bring it back, you know who you are, I have a physical copy for you immediately. And I also love having the Audible because I think at some point I'm going to have to put it in my will because I think I have close to 200 books in there. So I should probably give that to the boys at some point. Give them the code, or Google's just going to disappear anyway, so it doesn't matter. I don't know what's going to happen. But there's my cheat code for that, if anybody's listening or cares, or both. Questions from anybody before we advance? Throw them in the chat. Questions, comments, concerns. Did the agent in the training room run down the hallway and get the copy of that book? Did we do that? Yes, no, maybe. So value proposition examples. Airbnb. And this is from the companies themselves, which has changed over time, obviously. For note, our content gets re-upped every so often. This was re-upped in 2022. So some of these may change. I'm looking at State Farm and I immediately want to laugh because they're screwing people in real time in California right now. We'll get to that later, different class. Airbnb exists to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere, providing healthy travel that is local, authentic, diverse, inclusive, and sustainable. That's their value proposition. Sounds like a mission statement. Doesn't matter. That's their value proposition. Walmart. Everyday low prices for a broad range of goods that are always in stock in convenient geographic locations. Slack. Does anybody know what Slack is? A lot of corporations use it to have a side chat going. And usually 70% of the employees are annoyed that they have to download something else to their phone. Not to mention they don't want to talk to people over the weekend that they work with. Carol Goodwin, I'll use it with Naj. Yeah, I get it. Perfect. Slack makes it downright pleasant to work together. All right. Carol would agree. Naj is pretty awesome, so it's good that they use it with him. And she says VA. So VA can be a couple of things. VA obviously is a form of housing, a financial product that our veterans are able to use to buy houses, and then also virtual assistant. So if you're looking to get leverage rather than having a physical heartbeat in New Hampshire, you can hire a VA. There's a multitude of companies that you can explore with that. One of our favorites internally, because we have some great talent from that company, is our dear friends at Vibe Connection. There's a bunch of companies. If you're starting to think from a leverage standpoint that you want to explore VA, I think there's some great opportunities, and we've got some great companies you can connect with. Now, real quick before we move on, if you're thinking, no, I don't want a virtual assistant, I want somebody in the building, I get that too. I can promise you, ask a veteran agent. It will take longer for you to go through the process of creating the Indeed ad, getting the resumes, having them do the disc, having them do the KPA, getting them through 90 days. The VAs aren't perfect, but the VAs are pretty well versed in our ecosystem, and they can get to work for you faster. And then that VA could train your executive assistant when they show up, and then maybe you keep both. And the VAs are less cost prohibitive than a full-time salary because of the exchange rate, and 90% of them are in the Philippines. And we'll talk about that if that's something you want to discuss, or talk to a veteran agent, talk to Carol Goodwin about her team's experience with Naj. Pretty cool opportunity for your business so you can get back to doing what you should be doing. Grammarly, great writing simplified. Compose bold, clear, mistake-free writing with Grammarly's AI-powered writing assistant. QuickBooks. It's almost tax time, right? It's April 13th today, 90 days out from 2 days away from tax time. Yikes. QuickBooks, send invoices in minutes and get paid 2 days faster. And then our dear friends at State Farm, here to help life go right. Super short and concise, right? Those are value propositions from some major corporations. Connecting to your value, right? You want to make sure KW and Market Center value is baked in. Carol did that talking about her team. You can do that as a solo artist. talking about the value of the rest of the team that you have access to here at KWCLM. You want to make sure they understand you have your fiduciary responsibilities. There's the things that we're committed to. And this is, really important that, we remember, even though we have the entire team or we have another agent that's going to be working with us, not to mention the team that is created when you go under contract, even though you're on the other side of the deal, we start to work together as a complete team to get the deal done to benefit both of our clients. So you really become a teammate and not giving up any important, undisclosed information to the other agent, but making sure that we're working together on behalf of the contract at the success of both of our clients, right? And being the market expert too. Super simple to do I make it sound super simple, but it is so simple to do in our market center. There's so many ways to plug in. You've got a chance to talk to your brokers today at 1:30 on Keller TV. Your brokers are going to be back Wednesday morning for 3 hours of contracts. You've got the all partners meeting in Portsmouth this week that starts at 12 o'clock. You've also got access to your brokers again with Back to Basics and KWCLM Essential Forms at 1:30 on Friday. And you have access to your brokers to call them with questions, comments, concerns all the while. So being a market expert, being a student of the industry, that's going to be the one thing that's going to be really important. Not just like, hey, I can offer you the same information that you could look up online, but being connected with the agents here at this market center, knowing what's coming in 20 minutes. That's a huge opportunity for our agents is, when you're in conversation, we're allowed to share internally our coming soons. As soon as a coming soon starts to get shown to one agent, it has to be shown to all agents. But you would have a leg up on people because you have so many people at our market center who have coming soons that you'd have access to that information and be able to use that as leverage. Because there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be coming to the market that you'll know about first. That puts you in a better position. It's not going to change the game ultimately. Once everybody starts going into the property, everybody's in the property, all the offers can come in. But the beauty of having access to your fellow agents and the inventory that's coming that nobody else knows about is a huge, huge conversation. KW Market Center value. I have access to a collective knowledge and experience of nearly 200,000 agents worldwide. That's a worldwide number. We're about 160 something when it comes to the United States. None of it really matters unless we make it important, not make it, but make them understand why it's important to them. I think it's really important that we do discuss the fact that we are global, and most of the major brands are. Here's what we need to make sure people understand, especially here in New England. It's such a cheat code. There's an opportunity in New England to really press hard on the fact that we have secondary education. There's so much secondary, like major exclusive secondary education in New England, all the great schools and Ivy League schools are up in this area. Then you go to major medical, right? There's a reason they call Boston the hub. From an education standpoint, from a major medical standpoint, we used to be important with sports, but we're terrible now. We're working on it. And then, when you think about New England, like it's 20 minutes that way to the ocean and it's 30 minutes that way to the mountains to go skiing. So when you start to talk about the fact that we've got people all over the world that are coming here, because you've got people in Dubai that are going to come here because their daughter needs to be in Boston for medical. And not to diminish medical practices around the world, but most people want to be here. Children's hospitals and such. So people are exploring property. When we put it on the multiple listing service and we put it on the Keller Williams listing service, we've got eyes from all over the world. Because you'll have a consumer every once in a while that's just like, well, I think we gotta post it again. It's like, well, there's only one internet, and it's currently on the internet, and the internet is currently not interested. So what do we know? And we know this time over time is it's not anything but the price. Because you can talk about condition, but if the condition can't be changed, then we need to talk about price. So that's going to be really important. Fiduciary, I can point you to reputable resources to determine the best school district for your kids. We have to be really careful when we're having these conversations. I remember working with clients and they were moving from one town to the other because they're excited about the school system. And I remember thinking to myself, well, you're sort of moving laterally, but you can't say that out loud. All we can do is present them the information so they can make their decisions. If they ask you for your opinion, you're going to do that carefully. We have to remember, time over time, we are shopping with their wallet. It is up to them. Our job is to present them the information and the pathways to make those decisions. Because there's somebody who's going to ask me right now, we moved to Stratford. Ouch. We moved to Stratford years ago, really, because of the K through 8 in Stratford. The IEP there was going to be good for our youngest son, Cameron. And if you don't know what an IEP is, it's not a Kellerism. First one I haven't used today. The individual education plan was going to be good for Cameron because my youngest son, Cameron, who is now 18, is right when he turned 2, at 22 months, he was diagnosed with diabetes. At 26 months, he was diagnosed with autism. So we needed a school system that was going to help him play in the space. And the K through 8 in Stratford was great. Now, as we were getting closer to him going to Co Brown, not to pick on Co Brown, but I guess I'm about to, not so great for kids with IEPs, not so great for kids that needed a little bit more. Our eldest son, Aiden, phenomenal student. The K through 8 in Stratford was great. And Co Brown, for a typical student, was going to be a great place for him. Cameron navigated Co Brown and graduated last May. And I can tell you, if somebody asked me, parent to parent, outside of real estate, what do you think for a kid with special needs? I'd be like, not the greatest. Didn't know that till I was there. If I was a realtor right now, I would present the information that my client needed to explore that. We never, ever, ever want to put ourselves in a situation where they could turn later on and say, you told me to, or you told me not to. It is our job to present information so they can make decisions. We don't make decisions for them. We help them make decisions that will be appropriate for them moving forward. Market expert. I can help you price your home to sell because I'm very tuned into the market of the moment. That's really important too, the market of the moment, making sure that we understand it is always fluid. You know, it's not like, well, this is what's going on right now. And that's really troublesome when you're talking to a client or a future client and they're like, but my neighbor, 20 minutes ago, and their neighbor sold 4 years ago. It felt like 20 minutes ago, but it was 4 years ago. That's a wild difference. I think veteran agents on this call would agree that it was different last month. Our practices, our attitude, our tenacity has to behave for the market that is yet to come. That's what shift is all about. The purpose of real estate for buyers, their goal is to find just the right home at the best price in the right time with the least number of problems. I'm going to advise you to not say problem in front of your clients. Nobody wants to hear that word, but yet it's in there for our use. For sellers, their goal is to net the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of problems. Now, when it comes to time, especially for the sellers, when we are encouraging them to get into the market and set the market, as we should be doing right now, maybe moving in the shortest amount of time really isn't their goal, because maybe they require a suitable housing clause. So they need to find the buyer that's going to be like, cool, we want to buy it, and we're willing to wait for you to find the property you need. So both of those paragraphs are a little malleable on what we, need to be worried about. It's going to be different for every buyer and seller. But the great point in that first sentence on the seller too is most of them want to net the most they can. So when we have sellers who are pushing back on our commission, which they will, which they're entitled to, what we need to remember is they're not really worried about our commission. They're more concerned about their net. So a great question to ask is, Mr. Lindsey, if I could show you a plan that we will carry out that will net you what you're looking for, if not more, that also includes the compensation for the transaction, would that be a problem? I always ask the positive, negative. They'll be like, no, it wouldn't be a problem. Great, sign here. Carol Goodwin's got her paw up. What's up, kiddo?
I just wanted to say that, especially in the current climate that we're in with everything that's been going on with the NAR settlement and all of
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
this Ignite course right here, defining your value, is probably one of the most, or the most important one that a realtor can pay attention to and to really sharpen their toolbox on is this.
No pressure. Thanks, Carol.
There's no one better on
Oh, not
planet
listen. Listen.
America
Just because
to
I grabbed your
suggest
sick day, don't
anything.
start. Don't start now. Don't start now.
You're my favorite and my
Oh
best.
boy.
The
Oh
best.
boy. Go back to your NyQuil. Don't cough on the. Don't cough on the screen.
Dayquil.
Oh, you're home. I'd be doing NyQuil. Anyway, glad you're feeling better. Top 10 service areas for the buyer value proposition. Doing a needs analysis. So important. So important to do a needs analysis. There is a buyer intake sheet. There is a seller intake sheet. If you're on a team, you probably have those in play. We certainly have those available for you when you're doing uptime. And it's just going to take you through all the questions you're asking as you get into relationship with somebody. And inside of that intake sheet are a bunch of questions, all of our scripts, dirty word, I know, but here we go. Inside of our blueprint, our conversation blueprints and our scripts, if you look at any good script, it's really just a series of questions. If we stay in curiosity, we will win. The best engagement for a consumer to have is one in which they feel like the star of the show. And we just keep asking questions. So that needs analysis, finding out why it's important for them, why their time frame is important, why that net is important, why that town is important, why that style house is important. Because I can assure you, more often than not, the style of the house is secondary to the zip code. For a lot of families, for a lot of groups, they're looking for a zip code that's going to play in the space of the school system. Paramount for us was getting one of 3 towns. We finally got down to 3 towns when we were shopping, when our boys were just about to start school and we needed the IEP for Cameron. And our 3 towns were ridiculous. We were looking at, we looked at Litchfield, which didn't make sense for us. We looked at Andover, which is a hike. And people would argue Stratford's a hike too. The house that worked the best for us, because we knew that and this is a longer story for later, we knew that we had my in-laws coming over from Australia. Stratford made the most sense because we could build their portion of the house out, because if you want to stay married and your in-laws are coming, they shouldn't be in the same house. They should be under the same roof. Advice from a friend. So we found the house that was going to make the most sense for us in Straftopia. So it was twofold, but really town mattered. And then finding the right house. That's why we had those final 3 picked out. And Stratford won. And we're still there. We're going to stay there. I don't know when we're going to piece out of Stratford, but Stratford has served us well. But more often than not, for most people, especially for the short people involved and education involved, the zip code, the town is important, probably from an educational standpoint. Not always. Might just be a proximity to the private school the kids are going to. Not always. But the style of the house may fall secondary to the lifestyle in that zip code. Pre-qualification or pre-approval, super important, right? And we're going to ask this question off the top as we're getting started. Are you currently working with anybody? No. Okay. And the way I would ask this question, the way I found made it less uncomfortable for people, because I have found nobody was ever insulted when I asked it this way. Hey, Mr. Lindsey, awesome. So this summer, is this going to be will this be a cash transaction? Nobody was ever insulted by that. What it would usually produce is a nervous laugh And then it would answer all of my questions. Because what am I really asking when I say, is this going to be a cash transaction? I really am asking, do you have a lender? Have you got a pre-approval letter first? And most of them haven't. But when you ask, is this going to be a cash transaction? They're like, oh, no, we need to talk to a lender. Or, no, oh, no, we haven't done that yet. Or we haven't talked to a lender yet. It was a simple question that edified them, that later on they'll be like, does this person work with cash buyers a lot? Like, what's the clientele they're working with? And everybody will work with cash buyers at some point. Or a mix, a hybrid. But I found in asking it that way, it politely allowed them to answer all the questions and no one's ever insulted. As of late, because of generational housing, and you've got people, well, we're coming here, but I'm going to drag my in-laws or my parents. We want to be in the same space or we don't. I also started asking, will this be the only purchase this summer? Or, you know, will there be another purchase attached to this? They're hanging up the phone now and they're like, wait a minute. This Carol Goodwin chick, she's working with people that buy with cash. They're buying multiple things with cash? Because it's a great question to ask. Yeah, actually, if we could find two that work, I'd love to have my in-laws nearby, but not inside. And I couldn't agree more. I'm just kidding. I love them. Anyway, so in the grand scheme of things, asking those questions differently allows you to get more answers. And when they say, oh, no, we'd have to do that. Awesome. Do you have a lender of choice? Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And if they don't, you're going to offer up people that you know and love and trust. I would always offer up Brad Kelly. And I would explain to them why. He's been working with us for years. He does a phenomenal job. He's local. He understands the market. At the very least, he can get you a pre-approval. If you don't like Brad, you can use somebody else. But Brad is at least going to deliver us the numbers that we have and allow us to understand what we're using. Because you might hear from some people, you're just trying to find out what I'm worth. Because they think that we're trying to decide, well, Lindsay's going to spend enough to justify my time to work with them. I get that. Hey, I appreciate that, Mr. Lindsay. I apologize if it came across that way. My intention is to find out what product you're going to be using. Because based on the financial product you choose, it's going to change the parameters in which we can shop. My job is to save you time and money. And to have you looking at properties that would go outside of the scope of the product that you're going to use would be wasting your time. I would not want to do that. I hope that makes sense. Done. Nobody was ever pissed when I gave them that answer. But I certainly got pushback that people thought we were just trying to find out how much we were going to spend. It's not to find out your number. It's to find out the product you're using so we can guide the search appropriately. Because here's the thing, Mr. Lindsay. You guys could get a delicious number back from Brad. And it's well within your rights to not exercise that entire number. We've had so many clients, they get this number, you're like, wow, that'd be so cool to be able to shop with that much money. And they use less than half of it because they don't need to use the whole number. Because they want to continue to live a life that isn't filled with coloring books and ramen noodles. They're like, no, we're actually going to have television and go on an occasional vacation. And we'd like to eat out occasionally. Some people use their entire number and that can handcuff them severely. So easy question. Will this be a cash transaction? It gets you to where you want to go. Neighborhood information. Making sure we're providing that for them, right? And don't forget, we can't talk about, and we do this in videos sometimes. We're pretty good at not doing it, but people have done it in the past. You're shooting a video and you're outside the house. You're gonna have an open house this Saturday, and you start swinging around. You're like, right over there is the school, which is the best in the state. And for our Jewish friends, there's the temple. If you're Irish Catholic, there's St. Margaret's. You can't do that. And if you didn't know that, I'm telling you now, you can't do that. We can't talk about what we feel is important, or maybe important to some people, but not all people. very close to local places of interest. And I know it's challenging because you want to pour your heart out, and especially as you start to develop relationships and you understand that this house of faith would be very important to them and it's super close, honestly. We can't outwardly broadcast that. Although if I have certain friends of a certain faith and they practice on Saturdays and they walk to the house of faith on Saturdays and they ask directly, I could share that information. I can't publicly broadcast that information. Just so we're clear. The home search is really important too. And I know we think, well, I've got the tools and there's so much tech now and it's KW and command and there are minute details that you can incorporate into their home search. And what I'll tell you, and the veterans will back me up on this, is don't get too specific. And I know the concept, if you're in archery or you're at the range shooting, is aim small, miss small. I get that. The challenge is you'll miss a property that may be perfect for them to grow in. My point being, if you have a client and they're just like, we definitely want a wood burning fireplace with a stone hearth into a cathedral ceiling, and I get all that. Maybe the great room has a cathedral ceiling and there's no stone fireplace. Could they put in a gas insert later? Could they put in the whole thing later? So we want to, less is more, so they can have a choice. Because we have to decide what's really important. The zip code for the lifestyle they want was important. This side of town was important. This stylish house-ish was important. We start to get into nooks and crannies, like it's a young couple and they have a Schwinn bike and a dog and they suddenly need a 4-car garage. Like, let's help them decide that that might not be in their best interest, not to mention outside of the scope of spending, not to mention there's not a lot of 4-car garages in the town in which they're looking. So we do want to continue to redirect them and have them recommunicate. Hey, Mr. Lindsey, when we got started, these 3 things were important. I feel like the list has changed. Should we regroup and have another conversation? Oh, why do you ask, Tim? And I can just start to point out some of the, the discrepancies in our discussions prior and our discussions now and the search that we're on. Because suddenly your search criteria that you're sending to them don't match what they're looking for. And maybe, and this is a challenge, and we have to stay in communication, we're not there for all the conversations. If it's a couple, unless you're really close with them, you're not in between them at night during the pillow talk. You never heard them have the conversation about, you know what? We were pre-approved for all this money and we wanted to only spend this much money. Let's spend more. They had that conversation. You weren't involved. You don't know. And they're suddenly telling you everything that you're sending them is terrible. And they're like, oh yeah, you weren't there. Well, no, that was 2 a.m. I was at home with my family. So sometimes we have to have that, the come to Jesus meeting, have the conversation with me like, oh, okay, we're back on the same page. And it happens. It happens. They change their mind and they don't incorporate us. And that is not their fault. That is shame on us. We have to constantly be readdressing where the arrow is pointing. We're making the offer on their behalf, right? And we're going to do that, really important from a buyer standpoint. We're going to do that with the information that we're going to garner as well on the property that they're making an offer on by doing a CMA. We're going to do a market analysis to make sure that, yep, based on what I see here, the pricing is accurate. Making an offer in this window would make sense. I would never tell them a number. We don't do that. But I want to do my homework for them as well. So when they're saying, oh, that doesn't make any sense. That number's ridiculous. Okay, well, I'm going to run the numbers and get back to you. And then if I have any questions, I can always call the list agent. Be like, hey, am I missing something? Like, how did you arrive here? This is what I'm seeing. And they're going to share whatever they feel necessary to share. But obviously, you can have that conversation and just make sure you're on the same page and help them put together a great offer to be successful. Then we're negotiating. These are all conversations, right? I just got on the phone. I'm negotiating with before we make the offer. We make the offer. Now we're going through inspections, vendor coordination. This is a huge part of your value proposition. So they're not all wandering about. And you're going to have it happen for sure. You will have that first time home buyer, the young couple, they're adorable, and their Uncle Jim is a home inspector. He's not. He has a flashlight and a measuring tape. Anyway, maybe he is a home inspector. Here's the thing. We want to do the best we can with what we have. It is ultimately up to them. We're going to recommend our best opportunities. And when they say, yeah, well, so what's next? So offer accepted. We want to get our home inspection in right away, so we have the most time to make decisions and decide about moving forward and all that kind of stuff. And here are 3 companies that my clients historically have used the most. And their dad's going to want to come to the home inspection too. That's always fascinating as well. Jen Vashon had a dad join her and some clients for a home inspection, and the dad was taking he took his like his buck knife off of his belt, opened it up and jammed it into the wall to check for moisture. You can't do that. I mean, you guys know that, but you want to make sure if you have a dad join you for a home inspection, he's not allowed to jam utensils into the wall to check for moisture. It's not a thing. We don't do that. The vendor coordination, right? There's title companies, there's inspectors, the moving company, all the kind of stuff that we want to make sure we put together. We have a lot of allied resources. Wednesday, when we start the meeting, you're going to see all the allied resources we have. You're going to develop additional allied resource relationships so you can be that trusted local asset when they start this process. Here are the companies that we recommend, that we've worked with, that we trust, right? And you're going to let them choose. Pre-close preparation. The title company is really going to run this conversation, but obviously you can still take credit for that. All the important things. They're very excited about their 3-car garage. Doesn't mean they should buy a truck to put in there, right? The final scrape on credit. So many people have fallen apart during that conversation. You don't buy the couch for the house yet. You don't quit your job yet. You don't buy a truck for the 3-car garage yet. All that stuff has to wait. They do employment verification in the final 20 seconds. They do a final credit scrape. All that stuff has to wait until after closing. We've also had that happen. Somebody was so excited about their new house. And now that they were approved and they were under contract, and she quit her job. Well, her job was part of the matrix that built their financial credit to afford the house. That was horrifying to have to call them and explain that. So nobody's allowed to do anything. Like, it's a really exciting time. We don't make any purchases. No major. You can go get dinner. You don't go get the sectional. You don't buy a brand new TV. You don't buy a new sound system. You don't buy the hot tub for the back patio. You don't buy the truck. You don't quit your job. Your lender will have that conversation. Brad Kelly will have that conversation with them. Here's what you don't do until we close. And your title company will make sure that they have everything they need. Title company will explain what they're bringing to the closing. And then the close and the post-close, and how you're going to stay in conversation with them, especially as a buyer. What we see historically is we orphan buyers at the closing table, and we never speak to them again. And then we're upset in 6 years when somebody else lists the home that you helped them buy. And there's a process for that. You can put them in as a first-time home buyer, initial client, however you want to tag them in your CRM to stay in touch with them. Home anniversaries, right? It was a year ago. And yeah, you're gonna have some tough conversations sometimes. Maybe they'll call you 6 months in. And they're like, the washing machine died. Okay. Washing machine is private property that usually transfers in the sale because people leave them behind. It is private property that's left behind. They own it as soon as the property closes. It could die the next day. That's not your fault. It is what it is. But you'll have those conversations. They'll call you a month later. The dryer doesn't work anymore. Okay. Yes. bestbuy.com/buy a new dryer / leave me alone. Don't say that. I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean. All those things will happen. Post-closing process, reaching back out to them. A great thing, and Cody Gibson talked about this all the time. When your seller sells the house, the sign in the yard is from the person who helped them sell the home. When your buyer buys the house, after the seller's sign comes down, ask permission to put a sign in the yard for a couple of weeks that says bought with. A brilliant hack. Because they've seen the sign for the listing agent. Couple days after the closing, because the listing agent's going to want to leave it there as long as possible. Sold with Lindsey Productions. As soon as that sign's gone, you ask your buyer, would you, and you do this at the top of the sale. One of the things we love to do to celebrate after we close, because you're future-proofing their greatness, is we'd love to put a sign in your yard that says that you worked with us. Would you be willing to do that for a couple of weeks after the closing when the seller sign is gone? Carol Goodwin had your hand up for a second.
Oh no, I just did. That was like a little clapping emoji. I think that's a fantastic thing. And I've had some like mixed emotion around having conversation about that because essentially we did sell the house.
Yeah.
We were half of that deal. We're
Yep.
the ones who brought the buyer.
Yep.
So, some listing agents might get their panties in a bunch by, you doing that, but I don't care. That's, first of all, it's your client's house. They bought it.
Yes.
You
Yep.
know, their name's on the address now, so they can have
Yep.
anyone sign there. But you sold that house. So
Yep.
you should be able to let the neighborhood know that you were the one who brought the buyer for it.
You're doing it, and you're doing it after, once everything's delivered and the deal is closed, nobody belongs to anybody at that point. They're simply doing it to thank you for your service. And it doesn't have to be it could be a little A-frame sign. It could be anything. But I think that there for a week or so, and people are driving by like, oh, that's pretty cool. Never seen that before.
And I can I say one more thing?
No, go ahead though.
I'm going to though.
Oh, okay. We're fighting
There was one really big missed opportunity. There was a lot going on at the time. I forget what the situation was, but I sold a home right in the Kittery Four-side that Troy Williams had listed, and he and Annie had sold it. And they had remodeled this. It was like a new construction right in the Four-side.
Mm-hmm.
It was right behind the salon. And I sold that house and I wanted to put a sold sign up, after they took theirs out. And we didn't do it. And I forget why. There was a reason at the time why we didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like looking back on it, like for a year, that bothered me. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch. That was like the best place I could have put a sold sign was right in the Four-side of Kittery, and I didn't do it.
Yep.
Because it would be seen by 1,900 cars leaving and going to the shipyard a day.
Yep. And when you run into the people don't do that, I've never seen that before, nobody does that, take that as a compliment and then do it. Just because nobody's doing it, it's not the reason to keep not doing it. So just a thought, bought with Lindsey Productions. And you could, again, it could be a little chloroplast sign that you have made property specific, client specific. Welcome the Lindseys to Maple Street, property purchased with, and you just leave it at the end of the driveway, just like if they got their lawn done by a company.
And it could have your QR code made up.
4,000%. Yep.
Yep, have a
Yep.
QR code made up that sends them right to your landing page for your business.
Yep. And let me ask yourself this. By putting that sign in the yard, would you garner more or less business than if you didn't put any sign in the yard? So, because the sign you're not putting there right now isn't helping. So just a thought. And I love when people push back because I want you guys to be critical thinkers. But just because people aren't doing it, or just because, you know, Betty, the 9,000, and I'm old, so I can say this, the 9,000-year-old listing agent, this is my neighborhood. You can't put that. Betty, you don't live here anymore. You sold the house. The contract's over. I can put this up. My clients are doing this as a favor to me to thank me for the service. So she doesn't get to, and I promise you, if Betty, the 9,000-year-old listing agent, calls Nathan Dickey and complains that you're doing something out of the box that's that friggin' creative, Nathan will track you down and thank you for being a great agent. And if he hates the idea, tell him to come punch me in the face because we fight all the time and it'll be great. He won't be upset. He'll be thrilled. So our job in this industry is to disrupt the market, to create different ways of thinking, different ways of attracting attention. And that is well within the rules to do that. Well within the rules. Back here, needs analysis, same thing, the pricing strategy. This is so important. And property preparation. The price and the condition are going to have to be married to some extent. So you do the needs analysis. We go and visit the property. We are, God willing, going to be able to take a tour of the house without them so we can look at it with our eyes, come back and sit with them and say, hey, here's what we're seeing for things that may need to be addressed. Hopefully it marries a list of things that they know that they need to address. If not, we at that point can let them decide what they want to address for conditions and what they don't want to address for conditions. And then at that point, we come up with our pricing strategy. Because here's what happens. If we know the roof needs to be addressed and they choose not to address it, they're well within their rights. We know it's going to come up, right? So we're at the first showing. You're standing in the front yard. Of course, it's just you. You're the listing agent. Your seller's probably not there. I'm standing next to you as the buyer's agent. I've got the Joneses with me. And the Joneses had said to me while we were walking around, like, yeah, what's up with the roof? Well, based on the disclosures, it's a 25-year life design. It was done 27 years ago, so it needs to be addressed. And I say to you, hey, so what's going on with the roof? And what I would do is, if I already know, and as the listing agent, you would know, the Joneses don't want to address it, simply say, yep, I discussed it with the Joneses. We gathered local quotes and we factored it into our pricing. Now, does that need to be like dollar perfect? If the roof was perfect, the house would be here. But based on the quote we got for $30,000 to do the roof, now the price should be here. You don't have to make it dollar for dollar and reduce the price by that much. All you have to do out loud in front of everyone is say, we factored it into our pricing. So now they can't come back after the home inspection and say, well, with the roof, we want this much back. Well, no, we factored into our pricing. Doesn't mean they won't come back. But if we leave it unaddressed, it certainly will come back. A lot of people are here and there on whether we should do in certain parts of the state. In my town, Stratford, you're going to get radon for sure. When we bought our house, radon was a thing. So we did the radon air into the weeper. And we also have a Bubble Up XP for radon water. And we factored that all into our offer. We figured out what the prices were. We got quotes and we factored it into our second offer. So it was ultimately part of the reduction in the price that we paid. Can't do that after the fact. Can't call them 3 months later and be like, well, now that the house is transacted, we're upset with these numbers. And we all discussed up front, all part of our pricing strategy. Getting the property ready is also really important. And this is gonna be different for everybody, right? You're gonna have people that don't want to take down all their pictures, or they do take down all their pictures, but then they leave up all the nail holes from where the pictures were. Might have been better to leave the pictures up. But depersonalizing to some extent, so you can make it a blank canvas for other people to imagine coming in and living their life, is important. It's going to be different for everybody. Some sellers will refuse to depersonalize. Some sellers will be happy. Some sellers, fascinating. I always found this very fascinating. They're like, well, if we do all that, where are we going to put all this stuff? Well, get a pod and, put it in the side yard or maybe the driveway because they don't want it to sink into the ground. And I've had people say this, and I completely appreciate it, but just you got to help them walk through this. They're like, Timmy, if we get a pod and put it in the driveway, we're going to look desperate. And I get that. You don't look desperate. You look like you have a plan. You look like you're moving. It doesn't mean they suddenly have leverage on you. If I'm a buyer and I see a pod, I'm like, oh, they've got a plan. Walk into the house, it looks great. Doesn't mean I'm suddenly going to come in like, oh, we're going in 50,000 under asking because they look like they're moving quick. They look like they have a friggin' plan. Enjoy that. And we have to continue to visit. If they're going to be moving stuff into this pod, if they're going to be depersonalizing, let's make sure that we're visiting and we're helping them get the people that they need. Maybe they need our friends who do cleanouts. And we got our dear friend Declan who does Scribby, and we've got New England Pickers that do cleanouts, like real big cleanouts. And then bring in a cleaning company. Some houses need that. Some houses just need to make sure the throw pillows are fluffed and stuffed. Some people need to take 18 Ninja products off the kitchen counter so it feels cleaner and not cluttered. Things to consider. That goes into your marketing strategy. How are you going to tell the story? And this is important too. Telling the story of the home. As opposed to, it's got a nice driveway, it's white, there's a lot of bedrooms. If there's a story to tell, because some people don't give you a lot. One of the great stories, Jack Cotton wrote a great book called Selling Luxury. And he was up here a handful of years ago, and he was telling the story of the White House rose garden. And everybody in the room was like, this is amazing. So he was selling, he works down on the Cape. And Jack at this point might be on the other side of retirement. But he was down on the Cape working for Sotheby's, and he got an invite to go out to this compound and walk around and talk to the woman who owned the house, and she's walking him around. It was a decent sized guest cottage, and around it were all these rose bushes. And she says, Jack, this is what's going to sell the whole thing. And he's like, why is that? And they're walking around, and she's explaining. She goes, you see these roses? Well, the owners, and it went back maybe, it had been in her family for generations, and it went back maybe to the owner prior to that, or maybe it was her family. I forget. I don't recall this being in his book. Maybe it's in his book. And she goes, see all these roses? And he's like, yeah. She goes, well, the family had been invited to the White House. And I'm sure if you look this up, you'll be able to track down what administration it was. I forget. They were invited to the White House. So as a gift, the mother of the family that owned the property at the time took some of the roses from this rose garden and brought them to the White House as a gift to the first couple. The first lady at the time took some of the seedlings and started the rose garden at the White House. The fact that you could own that piece of history, and it could be an old wives' tale, I don't think it is. That's the kind of stuff that people are just like, their ego immediately is like, oh, I have to have this house now. Not to mention it was a compound on the Cape, so it wasn't $17 to start with. The importance of being able to tell that story, the power of that story, that I'm telling you this story now years later from hearing it from Jack. And it was first person for him. And if you ever share that story to somebody that helps you convey the power of the story of the home, is so important. And the marketing strategy and how you tell the story is going to be important. If you really want to overcome the price and the condition, is what will the people latch on to that emotionalizes it for them, right? Bold logic makes us think, emotion makes us act. What can you do in your marketing to emotionalize the experience of owning this property for the people that will come to see it? And not everybody's going to have the seminal rose that started the rose garden at the White House, but there's something that you can probably latch on to that you can share with people that will take it to the next level for them. And some stories will fall flat with some and soar with others. So that's the importance of making sure you're getting your story out to as many people as possible. That'll help you receive offers. And with some of our sellers, especially if they're jammed up on price, they're going to be really mad. They're like, we just got this one offer, or we got a couple of offers. It's been months and we finally get an offer. I'll tell you this, and I speak on behalf of Nathan Dickey and everybody at this company. The best response to any offer is another offer. Unless you got 20 offers and 3 of them are horrible, because you have to listen to your seller. They can say, I don't want to respond to those 3. For us to encourage our seller to respond to the one offer that came in on day 46. And it doesn't mean, yes, sold, we love you. It means just respond. Start the dance. Because if they made an offer, let's negotiate. This is what we're doing, negotiating to sell. Number 6. And the important part of that we need to remember, even as the listing agent, as the agent who's helping the seller sell their home, is having them remember too, they're making this offer because this is what they see fit. This is what they can afford. And they're just trying to start a conversation. What's also really important too is maybe the 10 offers came in, and your seller has you respond to 7 of them. And you're going to have everybody get back to you with their highest and cleanest offer. What you need to remember as the buyer's agent on the other side, and to convey to your buyer, is it's not always about the money. At that point, the buyer's agent should get back in touch with the selling agent, the listing agent, and say, hey, what does a great closing look like to your sellers? I used to say, what does a great offer look like to your sellers? I've changed my language on that. What does a great closing look like to your sellers? And then let the listing agent answer. And money, net, will be in there somewhere, but it's not always the top response. Other things could be more important. To take that information back to your buyers will put them in a successful position. Same thing, the title company is going to help, and their lender is going to help, because they have to get their ducks in order to make their next transaction if they are going to domino effect, sell 123 Main Street, and then in the same day or the next day buy 44 Oak Street. They have to have their ducks in a row. So you're listing, your title company and your lender are going to help you with these conversations about preparation. And same. Don't buy the truck, don't buy the sectional, don't buy the sound system. Everybody needs to wait until the deals are closed to go make major expenses. And at the closing, for both, it's always a great time when everybody's sitting there. There's an awkward moment. The title company leaves the room to go make copies or something. You're all staring at each other. You might have gone through hell and back to get to the closing table. Take that opportunity in that moment. As a KWCLM agent, I'm begging of you to thank the agent across the table. Hey, I'm so glad we're all here. I just wanted to say, to the Joneses, they're your clients. It's been great working with you. And Mr. and Mrs. Lindsey, I'm so glad I got the chance to work with Todd, your agent, and with you. Todd, you've been so good. Like, butter them up at that point. You might have wanted to light each other on fire for a few weeks. Everybody's in the room now. Take the opportunity to be the leader and say something super nice, especially if Todd's somebody that you think should be coming to play here. And after you leave the closing, you're going to introduce him to JV or Amanda to have a conversation about what's next in their business. Take that opportunity of awkwardness while the title company's out making copies to be the market leader in the room and say something great. After that, just like your buyers, don't orphan them. Stay in touch. Have a program in which you're going to stay in contact with them, because they've been raving about you for at least 45, 90 days, because you're their listing agent. And people find listing agents by talking to other people. People find homes by looking online. People find their listing agent by talking to the people that they know and love and trust. You want to be the agent of choice in that circle of friends. What do buyers want most from their agent, right? 52% help to find the right home, help to negotiate the sale, the terms of the sale, negotiate the price. When choosing an agent, factors buyers value when choosing an agent. The biggest one, well, outside of other, but when we had answers, it was trustworthy, and then experience, and then reputation. Are you trustworthy? Don't forget, if people don't have a relationship with you, all they have is your reputation. What is your reputation in the marketplace? That's why I want you to lean on a list of truths, not a list of promises. It's important. Sellers, what do they want most from their agent? Help price the home competitively. Fascinating to me that other is like a bigger piece of the pie. But when we got an answer, it was about pricing competitively, marketing it to potential buyers. Time frame was important. And then having allied resources to help them fix the conditions to make sure they get to the price point they want. Sellers want honest and trustworthy. Crazy, right? Crazy. More often than not, it's honest and trustworthy. You'll hear punctual, being on time, and then negotiating skills. Obviously, agent is a friend or family member. And then reputation, right? Because they're asking around. When we're looking for the person to sell our house, we're looking for the mayor of the area, the person that knows the area well, and of course, we're asking friends. That's why it's important that we get in the habit of asking the question, who do you know that I should know? So how do you define your value proposition? Identify your knowledge, attitude, skills, and beliefs that make you qualified to be a great real estate agent. Transform the value you provide and the value of KW and your market center into benefits for your clients. Build your value proposition statement. So for years, I can tell you for years, this was probably more challenging. If I were an agent in 2025, what would be a great way to put together, if I gave the ingredients, if I wrote the ingredients down or I listed off the ingredients, what do you think might be a really efficient way to build a value proposition right now? I'll let somebody come off mute. I've been talking for 6 days.
Dare I say ChatGPT?
Amen, sister. Amen. Go into ChatGPT and say, write me a real estate agent value proposition that conveys care, candor, comedic value, and institutes the ideals of knowledge and efficiency and on it, like just somebody could do it right now. I'd love one of you offline to do it right now and then copy and paste it in. And then because you can go back in and be like, make it funnier, make it more care-filled. I mean, it's And then you don't have to worry about writing it. Now, it might push back like, Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. If it's 4 paragraphs, that's not going to be helpful. And you can keep chopping it down. You could also go with the cheat code of, I'm not sure we should work together, Mr. Lindsey. If you have some time, I'd love to sit, get to know each other better, ask you some questions, and make sure we are a fit. And that's not going to work for everybody. Some people don't like that. Some people want the 37-second elevator speech. And if that works for you, whatever works for you is what works for you. I just got weary coming up with exactly what to say that was better for me than simply turning it back on them and having them think differently about the opportunity. It's very rare that a salesperson's going to say, I'm not sure we are a fit. I can tell you the people that do, as your dedicated real estate partner, I'm committed. That's perfect. That took you what, 17 and a half seconds, Goodwin?
Yeah, and I didn't change it or anything. I just wanted to see what it would do.
Yeah, across the board in our industry, ChatGPT is a cheat code. It's a cheat code. When you're like, I don't know, like there's your first virtual assistant. And to her point, that's what they spit out. Then you can cut it down. Then you could say, add care to this. Add irony to this. Like you can tell them to do whatever. And if you don't want to do that, build your own. And we can have conversations around it. Or just go with, if we have some time to talk, we can find out if we are a fit. I'd love to do that. Can you do tomorrow at 3 or Thursday at 4? Whatever you choose to do, I want it to feel like it's yours, and I want you to feel honest in doing so. I want you guys to operate in integrity. Don't have ChatGPT put together something that is riddled with promises that you don't intend to uphold. It doesn't feel natural to you. She's putting it hard to work now. Step 1 is identifying your knowledge, attitude, skills, and beliefs. It's about the benefits too, right? Centered around the benefits for your clients. What's in it for them? How will this make them successful? We have like 9 minutes. I'm going to ask you to come off mute and convince me that you learned something today, or you didn't learn something today, or you have a question or a concern or a favorite color, hopes and dreams, something. Throw it in the chat if you need to.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, bud. Oh. So you're going to get an echo probably because the TV sound is up, which is a challenge. So if you want to slam that into the chat, Ryan, that would be great. Sally Stu?
I can honestly say I never found my vision statement. So what I think I know, I need to work on a little bit and actually get it in writing, because
Yep.
it needs to be something that I can reference and reflect and repeat, so that it actually is usable.
And for lack of a better term, I love that, Sally. For lack of a better term, too, all it needs to be is a gateway drug to get you to a coffee or a sandwich or a bagel. Like, it doesn't need to be this all-encompassing, short paragraph, long paragraph. All I want them to do is be like, what does that mean? Hey, I'd love to dive deeper on this. Are you good tomorrow at 2 or Thursday at 4? Like, it's all, our goal Our goal is to get our foot in the door. Our goal is to set the appointment. And it's not set the appointment to slam paperwork in front of them to get them to sign all the things. Our goal is to create more time with them one-on-one, go back to the hierarchy of communications and the 7 levels of communication here. And the number one way that we create influence is by doing, and I know you can't see this, but I'm going to hold it up anyway. At the very top is a one-on-one meeting. That's where we are most powerful, where we can make them feel like the star of the show. Objections, people are like, oh my God, an objection. An objection is really just a question, and a question is just a continuation of the interview. And that's what we're doing from the moment we meet them to the moment we sit down with them. Our goal is to serve as many people as possible. Not all of the people. There's going to be people that come into your life. There's people that are in your life. Some of your best people will not choose you to serve them because they don't want you in their sock drawer, because they feel like we get this sudden intimate knowledge of their financial picture. That's not the case. And I can tell you as a friend, and veterans will tell you as well, you don't want to serve everyone in your life, because sometimes the closest people to you will take additional license with you that will change the relationship forever. Some of the people that are closest to you will be better for you and for them and your relationship moving forward to have someone else serve them. You should be the kiosk in the mall they come to, though, when they have a question about buying, selling, or investing, for sure. Ryan, did you type out what you had for us? Or are you just going to fall on the nerf sword that it echoed too much? Oh, I love that, Ryan. Perfect. Yeah, that's a Timmyism. I just think it's really important. I think as we, in our desire to create relationships with people, and this is dating life, married life, professional life. We will tell people what they want to hear to gain their trust. And I think it's the slipperiest. Yes, it's Monday. Stay with me. It's the slipperiest slope. Certainly is. Because then they're just like, yeah, remember they told? But I thought they said they had a 3rd elevator. I mean, right now, let's be honest, we don't have 1 elevator in this building because that's broken. So like when you start to list all these wonderful things that we have and we don't, and don't freak out about the fact that I can't get started because I don't know all the things we have. Take a deep breath and understand that you're never going to know it all. And then rest assured that the people around you know most of it. When you reach out to one of us for help, even if we've never encountered what you're up against, somebody in our ecosystem has. And we'll be able to point you in the direction of the right conversation, the right tool, the right class. So when somebody says, I want to build a pizza place on Mars, don't freak out. Just say, that's awesome, Mr. Lindsey. What's important to you about having a pizza place on Mars? And just keep asking questions and taking notes. We have a commercial division. And if you haven't met Nathan Dickey, he'll build a shuttle. We'll figure it out. Nothing is outside the scope of what we as a team can do. You might not be licensed to fly a shuttle. You might not be licensed to do commercial in outer space. Somebody in our ecosystem is. And if you even leave the relationship and you're not part of the official transaction, the referral is still yours. So we need to exhaust all our conversations, stay curious, take notes, and point our people in the right direction. And we do that by deciding that I need to talk to enough people today so I can find the person. Someone in my city is looking for help, and it's my job to find them. That's the video game of what we do. And if we're willing to fall on that nerf sword every day and understand that we're not going to move mountains every day, but we're going to take incremental steps and keep stacking conversations and skills and efficiencies, that compounding interest over time, you'll turn around and be like, I built a career. I built a legacy. I built something that I'm proud of, that's worth leaving behind, that will change lives long after I'm gone. And if you're willing to do that, and you're willing to embrace the suck until gradually turns into suddenly, you're in the right place, surrounded by great people who have done it before you. And I always pick on people when they say they're new. The day your license arrived, you were new. You're no longer new. You're growing. You're moving in the right direction. And the person that's joining our company today will look to you one day as a leader. So if we behave that way and act as leaders on a regular basis, we'll all be in a better place. The success system, don't forget, you're having 10 conversations. You're asking for permission to stay in touch with them in a business way. So you're adding them as contacts to your CRM, command, or whatever you're using. This seems laborious and it's powerful. Sending off 10 handwritten notes, simply asking, thanking them for the opportunity to have a conversation with them and letting them know that you'll be sending them the listing cart for the houses they're looking for, or the equity update CMA on their house, or the connection to Brad, our lender, or whatever it is. Super simple. 10 handwritten notes on little note cards so they don't look like a bill. And you're like, well, nobody does that. Exactly. Start doing it. Power of the handwritten note is huge because that will start to set you apart. 10-5-1 on social media. Make sure that you are putting 10 likes, 5 comments, and 1 post. If social media is not your thing, find some other way to engage on a medium that will remind people that you're alive and you're here to help. That's your 10-4. Anybody got a question for me before we escape? Did anybody find value today?
Most definitely.
I appreciate that, Ashley. There's a crisp $30 bill coming your way for that. Anybody else before we escape? Kellerman, thank you. All right, you guys, we're back at it on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. We are Zoom all this week because Wednesday we'll be doing live contracts in Portsmouth. On Friday, we have a commercial event taking place in the training room. So Zoom all week for Ignite. Don't forget tomorrow and Thursday, 9 to 11, the same time. You can go to kwfightclub.com. Cameras on, microphones off. We're making our phone calls. And also, I will see you today at 1 o'clock. Today at 1 o'clock, we'll be doing the midday protocol. Every day we get together, we report our stats, our actualities for the day, conversations held, appointments set, and contracts signed. And then this week we'll be talking about the 6 myth understandings according to Gary Keller. Also this week there will be no midday protocol on Wednesday because we will be in the all partners meeting. We'll remind you of that today and tomorrow. There will not be a midday protocol on Wednesday. As always, you can go into the morning news. It will tell you everything that's going on every day. If you got questions, you know where to find me. It is 603-834-2856. I appreciate your time, guys. Have a great day. Take care.